Hello, everyone, and welcome to Research Ride, a 30-minute journey from idea to implementation of research programs in the Department of Medicine at Emory University. I am your ride leader, Charlie Searles. I'm a faculty member in the Division of Cardiology, and I'm the Associate Vice Chair for Research in the Department of Medicine. Today, we will be touring with Dr. Nadine Rouphael, Professor of Medicine in the Division of Infectious Diseases. Dr. Rouphael is also the Executive Director of the Hope Clinic, Principal Investigator for the Vaccine Treatment and Evaluation Unit, and Clinical Core Principal Investigator for the Human Immunology Project Consortium. And she has played a very important role in COVID research for therapeutics, immunology, vaccines, and monoclonal studies. Welcome to Research Ride, Dr. Rouphael.
Thank you, Charlie. Pleasure to be here.
Can we start with a little information about your background prior to Emory, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in Lebanon. Both of my parents are teachers that emphasize the importance of education very early in my life. I grew up in a Francophone milieu. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and medical school, all with the Jesuit fathers. I studied everything in French. I then spent a year in Lyon, in France, studying health economics before coming to Emory. And I've been here for the past 20 years, and it had been an absolute wonderful 20 years that I spent. I did my internship, residency, fellowship. I spent some time at CDC in the vaccinology lab. And I have joined the Hope Clinic back in 2007 at the end of my infectious disease fellowship and have been there since. And I really enjoy being part of the Emory family.
So do you go back to Lebanon from time to time, or you obviously still have family there?
Yeah, absolutely. Mom and dad are still living there. Unfortunately, the situation had not been great. I used to travel there quite a bit, once or twice a year, going back to the roots. I'm a mother of three. They also have embraced the Lebanese culture. My husband had grew up in Africa and is a French citizen. So we tend to travel quite a bit and connect with family whenever we can.
So do you have any free time?
Yes, I mean, I think it's always important to balance work and life outside work. Yeah, yes, I try to create free times. I cannot say I have particular hobbies anymore. I spend it with my family. I love cooking, and in a sense, it's just, creating something from scratch. And I love doing that, either as part of my work or at home. I spend some time outside. I love watching sports. A lot of things that I enjoy.
Which sports do you like?
I watch a variety of that. I think I played tennis quite a bit in medical school. Prior to that, I played soccer. It took me a while to understand American football, but now that I got it, I'm very passionate about watching games.
The NFL, you're talking
yes,
about.
Yes, exactly. The Falcons is my favorite team, though. I know they have not done very well lately.
You've become a Falcon fan after 20 years in Atlanta.
I have.
And I just wanted to ask about the cooking. Is it a Mediterranean focus or French focus or both or fusion?
Yeah, I think a mix of both. I'm not very creative in the kitchen. I don't want to make anybody believe that. I tend to follow the recipe very well. And it's a mixture of Lebanese, French, and some American. I cannot clearly take credit that I do fusion cuisine, but I do enjoy them.
I want to move on to your research. What is the Hope Clinic?
The Hope Clinic is the clinical arm of the Emory Vaccine Center. Really, our mission is to bring to people in Atlanta and Georgia, across the US, across the world, products that will have an impact on their health and will have an impact on public health in general. What we've done is we've done a lot of clinical trials, either related to HIV, to pandemics, to other infectious disease, in preventions or vaccines. We've also taken a lot of pride in engaging our community. We also are dedicated to training the next generation of physician scientists. And being the clinical arm of the Emory Vaccine Center, we're also very engaged in translational immunology and understanding better how vaccines work and how we can design safer and more effective vaccines.
And how do you get to be executive director of the Hope Clinic? What was, I guess what I'm asking is, what was your path to that title?
I think it's more a passion for infectious disease in general, and then preventing disease rather than curing disease had been the driver. I mean, I recall in my first year of fellowship, we had a retreat for the infectious disease fellowship. This is typically where the first year fellow will hear it from other established faculty in the field. It had been probably more common for people to sign up for a particular pathogen. I mean, I recall the fellows that were in my class were very interested in Staphylococcus aureus and MRSA, in tuberculosis. I think I'm one of those people that couldn't commit to a pathogen, couldn't give up the fact that I like diversity, that 300 pathogens is not something we should be scared about. We should just fight with preventive methods. Growing up, I had a very positive image of vaccines. I had the same pediatrician for many years, even well into adulthood. For some unusual reason, I received multiple polio vaccine, this liquidy, sugary vaccine that was pink in color. I've always had a, again, a positive image of vaccines. So I felt like if I continue in the vaccinology field, this will allow me to still know a lot about different pathogens to prevent disease and create a better future.
So as a trainee, you knew you wanted to go into vaccine research or vaccine clinical application. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, from the very beginning, I remember clearly Mark Mulligan was recruited from Alabama to lead the Hope Clinic back in 2006. I think I met with him the first day he was here at Emory, and I was like, listen, Mark, I really want to do vaccine research. Would you be my mentor? And he said, Nadine, yes, I will be, but this is my first day. I'm still getting oriented. Please come back in a couple of years. We're planning to apply to become a VTEU, and we'll be glad to have you. And really, the rest is history. That's all I've been doing since then, and just being part of the Hope Clinic family and stellar faculty, and working within different NIH network, also working with CDC, to some extent with some industry. I think the nice thing here is we work with different staff. Some of them are going to healthcare career. Some of them, research is their career. So it had been very nice to kind of be part of people's life, from the participants, the staff, the faculty, being part of the community as well.
So you referred to the VTEU, was that what you said? That's,
yeah,
that would be the Vaccine Treatment and Evaluation Unit?
That is correct. Yes, Emory became one of the centers back in 2007.
How do you interact with the community for people who would be getting vaccines? How do you bring those people in?
I mean, thanks to a lot of effort, especially from the HIV prevention and HIV vaccine team, through our community advisory board, there have been always a sustained effort to explain infectious disease better, to explain prevention better. we're really fortunate to have a community behind us that's sacrificing their time and their health to do phase 1 and phase 2 study. I mean, I recall very clearly just shortly after I started at the Hope Clinic, we had back in 2009, the H1N1 pandemic. I recall many people signed up. This was a time where we were opening our trial to older adults, 65 and above. And I remember clearly, fast forward to 2020, exactly that was August 11, 2020. I go back to the rooms. This is the first day we are starting our Moderna phase 3 trial. Emory in particular had been quite involved with that program because we were also a site for the phase 1 trial. So I remember opening that door and seeing the same people that were there a decade earlier, trying to help us with the other pandemic. And the trust that they have in Emory was just so remarkable. I mean, they told us, if you get us out of one pandemic, you can do it for the next one. So it's, you know, I'm very grateful for the fact that, again, I'm part of a community that values research and infectious disease prevention.
One of the things I've been wondering about is for example, the pandemic, it's March 2020, right? Or
yeah,
March 2020. What happens at the Hope Clinic in March 2020? Like,
so I think
you recognize there's a pandemic going on, and you have the infrastructure to test vaccines, for example, or to test treatments, other treatments. How does that work? How does that come to pass? Does it?
Yeah, I mean, it comes with, again, preparedness. It comes with having the right team at the right time. This was a time where we were told to stay home, where the kids were home, where CDC had said anybody with the immunocompromising condition with certain comorbidities at a certain age has to stay home. So, you know, it kind of paralyzed healthcare and research. But again, at the Hope Clinic, we still had people showing up. I remember clearly the day where WHO declared SARS-CoV-2 a pandemic on March 11 of 2020. We were busy. I was in the hospital with Anish Mehta and the rest of the team. We were enrolling the first subject in the ACT trial, so that's adaptive COVID treatment trials. This one was when Emory had enrolled the most worldwide. That led to licensure of remdesivir and baricitinib as main antivirals and immunomodulator for COVID treatment. This was also the day where at the hospital, I received a phone call from NIH asking us to be a backup site for Kaiser Permanente in California to be part of the Moderna phase 1 study. So again, it was a lot of time of uncertainties, but we knew we could do it here.
So Emory had the means and the various entities came to you to get these treatments tested and vaccines tested, etc.
I mean, I'm fortunate to serve as the principal investigator for the VTU along with Evan Anderson and Carlos de Rio. It's truly a huge team effort, and it's a lot of pandemic preparedness. It's a lot of, you know, again, getting ready. We never want another pandemic, but it happened. And then we could deliver with the expertise that we have, with the experience that we have, with the fact that really Emory as an institution was extremely supportive. I mean, again, that day is one that I have in mind. I remember calling the IRB director. I remember communicating with the biosafety office. Nobody said, you know, we cannot do it. We're still scrambling to figure out what to do. Everybody said, you know, consider it done. Just, you know, focus on your part on implementing the clinical trial, and we'll do ours in ensuring, you know, safety of staff and participant. And again, just everybody doing their work, everybody being ready to step up. is what really made all the difference. And by the end of that month, we had already been heavily engaged in therapeutic trials. We had a very nice, back then, 80-year-old couple that had been on a cruise ship and had COVID, and then they really wanted to help us out. So they donated their blood, and it was instrumental for Emory as well as Emory Healthcare to develop a antibody test for COVID. And then by the end of that month, we already had started the vaccination with the Moderna phase 1, which was the first vaccine ever in a human. And the rest is history. By the end of that year, we had a vaccine, we had a treatment that were available. Unfortunately, we're still in the midst of the pandemic, so there is a lot of work still to be done. But again, collectively, we stepped up to make it happen.
And the participants were coming to you, the participants in these vaccine trials were because of Emory's track record for this kind of work.
Yeah, I mean, some that we didn't know from before, a lot that we knew before. Some people told us, I'm home all the time. I really want to do something. It's frustrating not be able to fight the pandemic. So they said, we want to volunteer. And back then we told them, please understand that this is a first in a human study, have not been tested in humans. What the field had tried to do is to test the study in humans and at the same time test them in animals. So it's a lot of gambling with what the product could do. Could it be safe? Could it be effective? But they still took that leap of faith and did it with us. And that's really kind of the magical moments of the pandemic.
And if you were to compare the COVID-19 or the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine trials to other vaccine trials that you've done, how would you compare them?
I think with the COVID vaccine trial, it definitely moves very fast. And when you move very fast and you need to adjust, sometimes it can become a challenge. So the team adjusted very well to a lot of misinformation that was out there in the news. Also, the team adjusted very well to constant changes in policy. So I think, yes, the fast pace is something that I actually like during the pandemic. Also, what it meant to people. I mean, a lot will come and tell us their own personal story. We had some from underrepresented minority will come and tell us, my community thinks I'm crazy for signing up, but I know I'm doing the right thing, or at least I hope it's the right thing to do. And let's figure it out together. So it was, again, it's just the trust that we had from the community was an essential drive for us to step up as a clinic. I mean, the effort did not happen only at the Hope Clinic. There was tremendous effort also happening at the Emory Children's Center, at Grady, and every single hospital and every single research unit. Maybe we started a bit earlier than the rest, again, because of the fact that we are part of the network and we've been involved in other pandemics as well in the past.
And then you test one version of the virus, but then there's other versions of the virus that come down the line. How does that come into your workflow here? How does that or how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been easy going through multiple waves of SARS-CoV-2 variants, many variants of concern that we've experienced. We're also very fortunate to be part of the Rouphael study. So that's a $50 million from HHS to look at studying variant vaccine, either alone or in combination, to try to see how we can expand our immunologic response. So our body will not just respond to a spike-based vaccine built on the wild type. So this is one of the effort that's happening right now at the Hope Clinic, but also Morehouse and the Emory Children's Center. And there are so many other efforts that are happening nationwide about a pan-coronavirus vaccine. Another effort that we have been involved with is also through NIH and a company called Gridstone with Paulina Rebeledo, and trying to understand how second-generation vaccine could perhaps protect against variant of concerns.
I want to switch gears just a little bit here because I know I heard this, I heard a talk that you gave on the microneedle influenza vaccine patch. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So this was a collaboration with Georgia Tech and Mark Prausnitz. I mean, frankly, you know, one of the best projects I ever done. And I think it's really a cool technology. Doesn't need refrigeration, doesn't cause any accident with needle sticks. It's really cool as it dissolves within the skins when you see it there. And we had very enthusiastic participants for the study. I recall many actually from Georgia Tech, and it worked. It was safe, well tolerated, well accepted, and it led to immune response comparable to the regular flu shot. I know many of friends and family, sometimes they're not vaccine hesitant, but they are maybe needle hesitant. So this one could be a solution for people that suffer from needle phobia, which is quite common actually, even in adults.
So you got interested in this because you're, as a vaccine scientist, you're interested not only on how vaccines work, but also how they can be delivered. Is that, how did you find your way into this project?
Yeah, I mean, I remember something that Walt Ornstein always said, vaccine in a vial is 0% effective. So unless we are able to improve on delivery of the vaccine, I think we fail if we're not able to find a creative solution to problems such as needle phobia or cold change that really renders a good portion of vaccines in low to middle income country not usable. So yes, I've always been a fan of how technology could also offer health solution. So Georgia Tech had the technology, Emory had the expertise in clinical trials. Emory also had the expertise through Richard Compan's lab with immunology. And, again, it's just that's the wonderful thing about Emory and the other institution here in Atlanta is how well we collaborate together to find solutions to public health problems. We did the study, we enrolled 100 participants in just less than 3 months of flu season. And we really got the results pretty quickly, and we shared them with the community very quickly. And Georgia Tech is continuing with efforts in Gambia, in kids, and also with CDC on different vaccines beyond influenza vaccine.
So in the vaccine world, in the vaccine trial world, what are you most excited about right now?
Oh, hard to name a project in particular. I think I mentioned Rouphael. Other things that the Hope Clinic is particularly interested in is human challenge model. So as a way to test more efficiently vaccines. So for example, cholera vaccine was licensed based on challenge study. It's a big ask. We are infecting people. Of course, we're doing it with trying to minimize the risk.
So by challenge, you mean you're giving people cholera?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So right now we're working on a influenza challenge model. We're working on a Shigella challenge model. For the Shigella challenge model, people will receive either placebo or vaccine. We're going to try to see whether this vaccine is able to decrease the rate of infection and illness after challenge.
So the advantage of the challenge model, I'm sorry, what is that?
So we are able to study in a well-controlled manner and obtain efficacy outcome on diseases that otherwise will be very hard to conduct phase 3 studies on, such as the case of Shigella, for example. We can understand a lot about the immunology, the pathogenesis, transmission, and then testing products, either a product that's meant for prevention, like the vaccine, or other that are meant for therapeutics, or for example, diagnostics as well. So it's an efficient way to be able to move certain field forward. It's not ethical to conduct a challenge study on any infectious disease pathogen, but in some we do, and in some we are even successful, such as the cholera, the vaccine that was approved more than 5 years ago.
What do you see as the future for vaccines in general? Is this, as far as from the beginning to the end of the process of creating a vaccine, has SARS-CoV-2 model, is that going to be replicated for other emerging diseases, infectious diseases?
I mean, that's certainly the hope, and I think it's within reach to some extent. There are many diseases that have pandemic potential that we need to tackle early, so we're not behind the ball as it was the case for SARS-CoV-2. That is a very important disease that we haven't been able to find an effective vaccine, and that's HIV, and a lot of the work that's being done by Jeff Lennox, Carlos Terrio, Srilata Edukupanti, or Colin Kelly is really essential in that area. There are many vaccines that work very well, but we don't understand exactly why they work well. So how can we understand better the mechanism of action of vaccine, so we can come up with a rational design of vaccines that are safe and effective? And again, I think we touched base a little bit on that. Could the mechanism of how we're delivering the vaccine important? You know, could microneedle be one way to increase acceptance and perhaps to some extent stimulate better the immune response? At the end of the day, the skin is the most rich organ or the biggest one we have that has immunologic cells. So a lot to learn and a lot to do.
Yeah, in that sort of theme, though, I've seen that you've written about the BCG vaccine as something that could have other effects or beneficial effects. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some live vaccines, including BCG vaccines. There are some other vaccines that are adjuvanted that create a reprogramming in our immune system that will allow the immune system to fight infections better. The proposal was not to use BCG vaccine as a vaccine against SARS-CoV-2, but in the few early weeks or few early months, could vaccines that improve the epigenetics programming serve as a way to prevent at least the most vulnerable or the most essential population, which is the older individual or the healthcare worker, is one approach. I mean, another work that we're doing here at the Hope Clinic, one is a collaboration with Kimberly Warkowski, and then another one is led by Varun Fatke, is taking the meningitis vaccine, serotype B, and trying to understand why it works against gonorrhea. And that's kind of a bit on the repurposing of vaccines. So we're trying to do an efficacy study that's funded by NIH, and we're also trying to do another mechanistic study funded by NIH to understand why this vaccine works. We know it's 30 to 40% effective when it has been used. So again, a lot of things that from the biology perspective, we don't have the answers, and we hope to have those answers so it can make us ready to fight other infectious disease. And we can also study specific population. Will men and women respond the same way? Will a younger person respond the same way as an older individual? Why they don't, why they do, right? And kind of build on that. The response with the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine had been great, but we didn't get the answer for the immunocompromised population. We did not get the answer for the pregnant woman. We definitely did not get the answer soon for the kids. So again, if we have a better system, the work that I'm doing with collaborators such as Vali Polendran from Stanford on system biology, that's one way to try to answer the fundamental immunologic question that will allow us to design the best vaccine in an efficient manner.
That provides a lot of hope, I think, for addressing future emerging infections, I would say.
Yeah, lots of lessons learned. We did well. We can always do better. And ideally, it would be best to live in a world that doesn't face any biologic threats, but that's not going to be the case. So better be prepared.
Well, Dr. Rouphael, this has been an incredible discussion, very informative. I'm so glad that you joined us today for an awesome tour of your research and your research program in the Hope Clinic. And I want to thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm going to conclude this podcast by saying that this podcast was brought to you by the Emory University Department of Medicine Office of Faculty Development and Research and the Strategic Advisory for Research team, the START team. And once again, thank you, Dr. Rouphael, and we look forward to following the progress of your work moving forward.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I really enjoyed our chat.